All right, let's just get right into it. What you're looking at, it's not science fiction, not at all. This was a real, top secret plan from the thick of the Cold War. The United States, yeah, they seriously considered nuking the moon.
So just picture this for a second. You're looking up at the night sky, right? But instead of that familiar, gentle moonlight, you see this brilliant, silent flash. I mean, that was almost our reality. Our very first major human interaction with the moon could have been an act of, well, cosmic aggression. Okay, so the plan had this super bland official sounding title, A Study of Lunar Research Flights. Sounds harmless, right? Well, its real purpose was anything but academic. The actual goal? To stage the biggest fireworks show in human history with an atomic bomb.
So, the big question is, why? I mean, why would anyone even consider a plan this radical? To really get how an idea this, frankly, insane ever got off the ground, we've got to rewind. We're going back to the late 1950s, a time of just intense Cold War paranoia and this desperate race for the heavens. So, October 4th, 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik. And boom, it sends this absolute shockwave through America. People were terrified. All of a sudden, you've got this idea of a missile gap. The fear was real, you know? If they can put a satellite up there, what's stopping them from dropping a nuke anywhere in the US? The pressure was just immense to do something, anything, to respond with a massive, undeniable show of American power. Okay, so with all that pressure mounting, the US Air Force comes up with a plan. And when you look at the technical details, you realize, oh wow, this was way more than just some wild idea scribbled on a napkin. This was a carefully, meticulously designed celestial strike. The project was headed up by a physicist named Leonard Reifel. And he put together a real team of heavy hitters, including the famous astronomer Gerard Cooper. But, and this is the part that gets me, the most surprising name on that list, a young PhD student. You might have heard of him, Carl Sagan. And his job? To do the math on just how visible that mushroom cloud, or, well, dust cloud, would be from all the way back here on Earth. Now, you might be thinking they'd use some massive hydrogen bomb, right? Nope, too heavy for the rockets they had back then. Instead, they picked the W-25 nuclear warhead. It had a relatively small yield, just 1.7 kilotons.
So to give you some perspective, the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima, that was around 15 kilotons, so the W-25 was way smaller. But here's the crucial part. It was also incredibly light. We're talking only about 220 pounds, and that made it the perfect little package for an early Atlas ICBM, which was pretty much the only rocket they had that could even think about reaching the moon.
And the targeting, wow, it was kind of genius in a really terrifying way. The idea was to detonate the bomb right on the moon's terminator. That's the line between the light side and the dark side. Why? So the sun would backlight the whole explosion, making that expanding dust cloud glow against the darkness for everyone on Earth to see. It was designed for one thing and one thing only, pure spectacle. Okay, but you can't just come out and say, hey world, we're gonna nuke the moon for PR, right? No way. So the project needed a cover story, a scientific justification. Some people literally called it a fig leaf to hide its true military purpose and make it look like a mission of discovery, not, destruction. So officially, this was all about science. Oh yeah, they said the blast could create seismic waves, to study the moon's core, and analyzing all that vaporized dust, that could tell us its chemical makeup. Carl Sagan even threw in the idea that, hey, maybe we could search for microbial life in there. It was all part of the story. But let's be real. The project leader himself, Leonard Reifel, admitted the truth years later. The science was, well, a bonus. The real goal was a psychological win in the Cold War. It was all about showing the Soviets and the world that America could hit any target, anywhere. And even inside the project, people were worried. There were serious ethical concerns. Reifel himself pointed out the huge cost to science. He warned that setting off a nuke up there would permanently contaminate the moon with radioactive fallout. It would just destroy its pristine environment and pretty much ruin any future scientific research. Okay, but here's where the story takes a really strange turn. Turns out, all that fear and paranoia that led to Project A119, it wasn't just an American thing. Not at all. On the other side of the world, the Soviet Union was having the exact same idea. Yeah, seriously. When Soviet documents were declassified, they revealed their own plan, Project E4. Now, their logic was a little different. They wanted the nuke to be undeniable proof that their rocket had actually made it to the moon. But the end result? The same. It's just this perfect, chilling example of the paranoid, mirrored thinking of the time. Both superpowers completely independently came to the conclusion that, hey, you know what's a good idea? Let's nuke the moon. So, thankfully, we can all look up at the night sky and see a moon that's, well, not scarred by a nuclear blast. So what happened? Why did they pull the plug on this apocalyptic plan? And how on earth did a story this big stay secret for more than 40 years?
Well, Project A119 got canceled in January 1959, and it really came down to a few key things. First, the Atlas rockets they needed to use, they were notoriously unreliable. The risk of one blowing up on the launch pad, or even worse, dropping a nuke back on Earth, it was just too high. Plus, officials started to realize the rest of the world might react with horror, not awe. And then, finally, a new, much more inspiring goal took its place, actually landing a man on the moon. So after it was canceled, the project was just buried. Most of the documents were destroyed. Then, in the 60s, international treaties like the Outer Space Treaty came along and banned nukes in space, making the whole idea totally illegal anyway. So for 40 years, Project A119 was basically erased from history, gone. So how did the secret finally get out? Well, the answer, pretty ironically, came from Carl Sagan himself. Fast forward to the 1990s. A biographer is digging into Sagan's life and stumbles on an old scholarship application. And on it, a young Carl Sagan, probably just trying to beef up his resume, had listed 2 classified papers he'd worked on for Project A119. That tiny little detail, that was the thread that unraveled the whole secret. So what do we make of all this? What's the legacy of a plan like this? Is it just some bizarre, crazy footnote from a paranoid time? Or is it something more? A timeless warning? Because today, as nations are once again racing to the moon and beyond, Project A119 is a stark reminder of just how thin that line is between exploration and aggression, and how easily the heavens could become the next battlefield.